Hello everyone and welcome to another fun RPG retro review. It's been an exciting summer for me with weddings, birthdays, school outings, and so forth with my DJ business, and producing a retro video has been difficult to make time for, but as fall approaches and the business gives me a breather, I hope to make several new videos back to back, with this one being the first of the new set. Given the time of year, I thought it would be fun to take a look back at the classic AD&D Gothic module Ravenloft. The popularity of this module spawned an entire campaign setting that lives on to this day and led to the production of many modules and gaming supplements. So, let's take a look at what made this module so unique and exciting, shall we? Warning, potential spoilers ahead. Also, as usual, as the review progresses, I will be pointing out some of the module's weak points and make suggestions for its use in a modern campaign. In order to properly understand the uniqueness of this module, one has to understand the time in which it was released. The year was 1983, and while TSR was releasing some wonderful classic adventures like Against the Cult of the Reptile God, Oasis of the White Palm, and Beyond the Crystal Cave, to name but a few, these were all basically the classic dungeon delve. Written by Tracy and Laura Hickman, Ravenloft took the AD&D vampire and put him in the classic Gothic horror setting he deserved. A dark, intricately detailed haunted castle was his abode, and he had goals and motivations completely separate from the player characters. The meat of the adventure was very much like a typical AD&D module, with a maze-like dungeon to explore filled with monsters and treasure. It stood out due to the evocative descriptive text, the motivations of the module's antagonist, Strahd von Zorvich, and the unique start of the adventure, which actually determined the goals of Strahd in the module. This technically meant that the module could be replayed with a different outcome each time. In fact, the detail given to Strahd von Zorvich's descriptions and his motivations are one of the primary factors in what makes Ravenloft stand out. Strahd's influence permeates the story and gives the module its edge. The player characters find themselves tricked into entering the haunted realm of the vampire, a legend-haunted village called Barovia, unable to escape due to a mysterious poisonous mist. And as the story progresses, they are drawn deeper and deeper into the plot of the vampire himself. Unfortunately, as written, the module has severe problems with its plot hooks. The gypsy encounter with Madame Eva certainly seems important to the atmosphere and plotting of the module, yet it is entirely possible to miss the encounter altogether because of where Hickman placed the gypsy camp. The module suggests that the card reading at the beginning of the adventure is basically an out-of-character determination performed secretly by the DM. But if the players manage to find the gypsy camp, then the DM is to have Madame Eva do a reading with one of the player characters and substitute that reading and its results instead to determine the motivations of Strahd and the location of several important magic items integral to the module's successful completion. I find this altogether dissatisfying given the importance of the gypsy camp and Madame Eva and how exotic and fun that encounter is. And thus, rather than having the DM do a secret reading and placing the gypsy camp location in an out-of-the-way fixed point on the map, I simply dispensed with the DM reading altogether and made the gypsy camp mobile and moved it into the path of the players regardless of where they might wander. The town of Barovia is bizarre to say the least, but not for the reason one might think. According to the module, no one has left the town in centuries due to the poison mist that surrounds Strahd's realm, yet the shops are permanently closed. But the tavern is open, as is the local trader. Who is the trader trading with? Good thing the PCs showed up. In my mind, the buildings would be rubble by now, or the people would have adjusted to this new way of life, and the shops would be robust, perhaps running an economy off some commodity unique to the area. Gold and money would have little meaning in such a place, and barter would be valued. Thus, the PC's unique items from out of town would be of some value in a town cut off from the rest of civilization in the world for centuries. The logic of the town needs some work for it to make sense given the background, and, in my opinion, as presented, it disrupts verisimilitude. The star of the module is unquestionably Castle Ravenloft itself, with its many levels, the isomorphic map beautifully illustrating the relationship between the various levels of the castle. The art is all done by the talented Clyde Caldwell, and this really marks the high point for module artwork in first edition Dungeons & Dragons. I'm not a big fan of perspective mapping, as I find it impractical for exploration gaming, but with a complex floor plan such as this, it's definitely needed. With the use of gaming aids such as vinyl battle mats or tactiles, the conversion from perspective map to a 2D rendering greatly lessens the confusion when trying to map such a thing. Hickman's evocative box text descriptions of the place certainly create the requisite atmosphere of horror, and the oppressive Gothic setting comes alive in Hickman's narrative, though many of the encounters seem out of place and a bit silly given the horror nature of the setting. That's not to say that many of the encounters aren't dangerous, if not downright deadly, and certainly comic relief when tension is high is greatly desired, so the DM will have to find a balance here. The most egregious offender for me being the Gygaxian naming scheme Hickman used in the tombs beneath the castle. A simple solution here would be to change them to something more appropriate to the setting, since the names themselves are completely unimportant to the story. Finally, the biggest problem I have with this module is that it commits the ultimate sin of turning the PCs into passive observers at the climactic ending of the story. A full page of box text describing the reunion of the lost lovers Sergei and Tatiana after centuries apart loses much of its emotional impact as the PCs have no real emotional tie to any of it. The crux of the story is described in the Tome of Strahd, where the vampire himself writes about his yearning for the beautiful Tatiana and jealousy of his brother Sergei and their love. My solution to this nagging problem was to eliminate the NPC Irina Kolyana entirely and made one of my female players the reincarnation of Tatiana, Sergei's lost love, rather than the Burgomeister's daughter. Thus, all the Irina encounters with Strahd in the module happen to the PC, and in the end, the PC has the choice of joining her lost love at the story's climax and leaving the campaign entirely, or staying, gaining the knowledge that of a past life and the pain of her lost love Sergei, whom she can never reunite with. Either choice certainly brings the PCs directly into the story and actually provides a solid justification for including them in the module to begin with. If you don't have a female PC in your group, simply reverse the roles, with Tatiana being the one murdered and the male PC being the reincarnation of Sergei. In this case, rather than trying to seduce Irina, Strahd attempts to kill the PC, and perhaps revenge becomes a motive for the PC as the true nature of his past life becomes apparent. In either case, it will require some minor adjustments in the module's plot, but nothing really major. As I said earlier, Clyde Caldwell is the illustrator for this module, from the outstanding Gothic cover of Strahd perched on a gargoyle-covered balcony peering out into the night, the 3D perspective maps of the castle, to the many illustrations within the module itself. This is, without a doubt, the best artwork that first edition D&D had to offer, and would set the standard for future products to come. Given its age and its popularity, it's no surprise that acquiring an original printed copy of the module itself can be an expensive endeavor, with original copies going from $40 to $70 or more, depending on its condition and completeness. However, a PDF copy can be purchased from RPG Now for only $5, thus making this classic Gothic tale easily attainable. Even with all its faults, Ravenloft stands out for many reasons. It was the first true Gothic horror module for the AD&D game. The descriptive text was top-notch and invoked the requisite atmosphere of the setting. The illustrations were of the highest quality, and the protagonist, Strahd himself, was highly detailed, and his motivations were not fixed, thus making the module replayable, all culminating in making Ravenloft one of the best adventures TSR ever produced. Well, friends, that brings this RPG Retro Review to a close. If you enjoyed this video, please please take a look at my other RPG retro reviews and subscribe for more. Part 3 of my how-to series for 5e Dungeons & Dragons is almost finished, and that should be my next release. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm always open to suggestions for future reviews, and I'm certainly interested in reviewing the Ruins of Undermountain as well. So, until then, as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true, and game on.